and then do everything we can to get, all I'm gonna say is, Judge, I'm gonna call a short witness out of order. And then I think we can get both done, Judge, but I'll do everything I can, and then I'll handle wherever you stop, we'll stop and we'll handle it.
Okay. Well, we'll see, because Kipple was a long time last time, supposedly. I don't remember, but we'll see.
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to say anything to the jury about Whittley being kind of out of order?
Yes, sir, just say I'm calling one evidence technician for the other, but it'll all make sense when they listen to both of them.
Okay.
Just say I'm calling one for the other. Normally,
Okay.
but
All
I
right.
think we're good though.
Any objection to that, Ms. Abel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, bring the jurors on in then. All right, welcome back, folks. You can have a seat. We were talking about witnesses. We may get two more, we may not get two more completely. And in actuality, I think Ms. Corey is going to call one witness slightly out of order. These are both evidence technicians, and one is very short. And so while it may not sound like it makes sense, it'll make sense when you hear from the second person who is longer. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Ms. Corey?
Yes, sir. Detective Whittley.
Detective Whittley, please. Good afternoon, Detective. If you'll come up to the front for me, please, sir, and raise your right hand. The clerk will administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, sir, if you'll come right over here for me. And you can adjust that microphone as you need. Be sure and speak directly into it and loud enough so everybody can hear you.
Okay.
Ms. Corey, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. State your name for the record, sir.
William Whittlesey
Spell your last name for the court reporter.
is Whittlesey
By whom are you employed?
with Jacksonville Sheriff's Office,
How long have you been an officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
24 years.
What are your current duties with JSO?
I'm currently assigned to the crime scene unit.
Were you formerly a patrol officer?
Yes,
Did you go through the basic academy and have all of that sort of training?
yes.
And did you receive special training to become an evidence technician?
Yes, we do.
Can you briefly describe that for the jury?
When somebody decides they want to take a position as the evidence technician in the sheriff's office, usually there's a basic crime scene course that we go to. It's a 40-hour course just to give us some basic ideas on processing and collecting, preserving evidence. As we progress through there, once we go out, we begin our employment in that capacity. We'll ride with one of the senior crime scene detectives for usually a month or so, just to learn more about how to do the job actually in the field, and just work through that.
Did you receive special training in those homicide investigations?
Yes, after we get, usually most people it's close to a year, is doing basic crime scene, which is I refer to as the burglaries and batteries. Then we go into what we call the major case crime scene work, where we have a major case class, where it's usually at least 2 weeks, where we learn how to put all the techniques and the pieces together to handle the major cases, the homicides, the police shootings, the more serious crimes that we deal with.
Did you receive both basic and advanced training specifically in preserving and maintaining crime scenes?
Yes.
Did that include digital photography?
Yes.
Did it include the collection of evidence?
Yes.
Does that include ballistic evidence
Yes.
from firearms?
Yes.
Where were you assigned in November of 2012?
I was assigned to the crime scene unit.
And specifically on November 27th, 2012, were you one of the major case ETs who responded to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office vehicle warehouse to assist homicide detectives Mark Musser and Travis Oliver?
Yes.
Where is the warehouse located?
The warehouse that we store cars at is located at 1089-1 Haynes Street.
Is it common for a different evidence technician to follow up if you're assigned to be working, say, 3 or 4 days after a homicide?
Yes.
And at that facility, who is allowed to enter just on their own?
On their own, the only people that have access to the warehouse are either the warehouse personnel or the crime scene unit detectives. That's the main people that only go in that warehouse.
So a homicide detective cannot go in even to check on the evidence that pertains to their own case. Is that
Correct.
correct, without being accompanied?
Correct.
Okay. And is it the practice of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for each officer to fully document the details of each case as it is handled?
Yes.
Are notes made as part of the normal course of your business?
Yes.
Are those notes then put into an official police report?
Yes, they are.
Would it aid you in your testimony to be able to refer to those reports only if you need to?
Yes.
What was the date and time that you were requested to respond to the JSO vehicle warehouse?
It was on the 27th at 7:40 p.m.
27th of?
of November.
What year?
2012.
Thank you. Who was at the warehouse when you arrived?
I believe I met with Detective Oliver Musser.
Did you speak with the homicide detectives prior to escorting them in to see a red Dodge Durango?
Yes.
Were you aware that Detective Kipple, one of your major crimes ET colleagues, had already been the major case ET assigned to this homicide scene?
Yes.
Okay. Were you following up on something that he had not taken into evidence?
The initial call was to just go and allow them access to the warehouse so they could check on a door lock mechanism.
Okay. And while you were there, did one of the detectives bring something to your attention?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me show you one of Detective Kipple's pictures, states 44 in evidence, and ask you, sir, is that the red Dodge Durango that you went to assist Detectives Musser and Oliver with?
Yes, it is.
And who is it that noticed that there was an item of evidence that needed to be collected from this vehicle?
I believe it was Detective Oliver.
And did you assist by collecting, photographing, and collecting that one piece of evidence?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, let me show you some photos that you took on that day, and if you'll go to States 45. Sir, can you circle the item of evidence that was noticed by the detectives and that you then photographed?
Okay.
And what was that, sir?
Okay, that was a fragment of a bullet that was found there in the door.
All right. Had anyone moved it in your presence?
No.
Was that car secured from the time it had been towed to the warehouse until the time that you and the detectives opened those doors?
Yes, it's a secure warehouse.
All right. Let me show you States 46. And is that a close-up of the projectile?
Yes, it is.
All right. And going to States 47, is that a photograph you took?
Yes, it is.
Explain that photograph to the jurors.
The piece of paper there in the background, that is my packaging that I was putting the fragment into. You see the fragment with the open side down and a scale there to give a size reference for what it is.
All right. Sir, I'm now going to show you what's been marked into evidence as States 193 and ask you to look at both the packaging and the fragment, as well as the submission number and the item number at the top. Oh,
Be careful.
yes, sir. Thank you. But at least I had my
Well, there's
microphone
a
on.
slight rise there because, well,
Yes, sir.
be careful.
I will.
Sorry, I should have said something to you.
I'll stop right here from now on. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, yes.
All right. And is that the fragment depicted in the photo that you've just described to the jurors?
Yes, it is.
And is that what you put into the property room for further testing or reference or preservation for this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no more questions of the witness at this time, but would like to pass this to the jurors.
All right, please do. Miss Abel, any cross?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Give the jurors a minute to look at that, Miss Abel, if you will.
Yes, sir.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, all of these things that are offered in evidence, you'll be allowed to take back into the jury room with you when you go to deliberate. All right.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Detective Whittley, now, when you, on November 22nd, 2012, went to the warehouse to photograph that fragment is something that was missed by the lead evidence technician, is that correct?
It was still there when I went to process it, so I couldn't, I would assume so.
Okay, well, the vehicle would have been searched at the scene and photographs taken and evidence processed at the actual scene of the shooting, right? In general operating orders.
Vehicles are frequently not searched at scenes just because of issues that surround vehicles, but like I said,
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
like I said, I'm not sure what all had been done to or not to the vehicle prior to my arrival at that night.
Well, with your knowledge of this case, do you know if the vehicle was searched by Detective Kipple at the scene?
I don't know at the scene.
Okay. Do you know if Detective Kipple searched it prior to you searching it?
I know there was some work done with the vehicle, but like I said, to what extent, I couldn't tell.
Well, this is the only fragment that you found, right?
Correct.
Okay, just the one. Now, when you went out there on November to the 27th of 2012, you were actually called out there for another reason. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that reason?
To grant them access to the warehouse, they could check something with the doors.
With the door locks.
Yes.
Is that correct? And that was Detective Oliver and Detective Musser?
Yes.
Okay. And when you got out there, obviously you have the keys, you give them access, and they're inspecting the door locks at this point, the child locks?
Yes.
And do they request for you to take any photographs at that time?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so you didn't take any photographs at that time of the child locks?
Correct.
On the rear passenger? Okay. I am going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 7. Is that up on your screen, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is this the picture that you took in the warehouse of that fragment?
Yes.
Okay. But perhaps inadvertently, you also did capture, in fact, the door lock. Is that correct in looking at that picture on the right rear?
Yes.
Okay. Can you circle for the jury where that child lock would be on that right rear door? Okay. And, sir, do you have any knowledge of how door locks like this work?
They make it so the door can't be opened from the inside, but what position that car would have to be in, I couldn't tell you.
What position it was in at the time, you couldn't tell?
Yeah, and I couldn't tell if that was on or off.
Okay, but in general, you switch it one way, the doors cannot be opened from the inside, is that correct?
Correct.
You switch it the other way, and that disables it, and the doors can be opened.
Correct.
Okay. I'm now going to show you, sir, Defense Exhibit 8, which is just a close-up of that same picture that you took. Does that lock appear to be up or down?
From that one, I'd be real leery to try to give you an answer on that just because of the angle that it's photographed at.
Okay. Well, let me go then to Defenses 9. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Does that appear to be the same door that you photographed in the warehouse of the Dodge Durango?
It's a red door.
Okay. Is that, in that picture, can you tell whether it's up or down?
I'd still have to say, if the little light spot there is the lock, then that is down.
Okay. And if you could just circle that again for the jury. Okay, and so that's in the down position. Now, if you could tap the screen to erase that, can you read under that the instructions?
It says, child protection lock up to engage.
says
Pull
pull
up
up.
to engage.
Okay, so if this is in the down position, it would be not engaged, meaning the child locks would not be engaged.
From what that's saying, yes.
Okay, sir, thank you. And just to be clear, let me let you look at defenses 10 as well. That's an even closer picture. Does that help any
Okay,
better, sir?
yes, yes.
Okay. Now, when you went out in all of your dealings with this vehicle, at any point did you alter those child locks?
No, I did not.
Okay, you wouldn't do that as part of your job, right?
Correct,
Because you would be changing the evidence, for lack of a better term.
correct.
Okay? When you were at that warehouse, did you allow either Detective Musser or Detective Oliver to change those locks?
I did not see anybody change or have any real physical contact with the lock.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. But specifically, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I asked you this or not, I apologize if I did. When Detectives Oliver and Musser were there, they were there initially to look at those locks, which weren't photographed, but that was when you found also the bullet fragment.
Correct,
Okay, so this all happened in the same day.
yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
I have nothing further.
Ms. Corey, anything further?
Yes, sir, may he be excused?
May he be
I was
excused?
going to ask you.
Yes, sir.
He's always excusable as far as I'm concerned.
You're excused. Thank you.
Miss Abels, is it all right if we excuse him? Yes, sir. Thank you, Detective, you're excused.
Thank you.
Next witness,
State calls Detective Kipple.
Detective Kipple.
Really?
There he is.
Okay, good.
Detective, come on up to the front, raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath to you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
We're on this side today, Detective.
Is it on?
That's all right.
Ready to go.
This courtroom's obviously, we could have two juries at one time. Your microphone's on here, or on over here, somebody. In most of the courtrooms, it's, depending on how you want to look at it, the witnesses go over to this side, my left, your right, so it's habit. But, so, here we go. Ms. Corey?
Yes, sir. State your name for the record.
Andrew Kipple,
Spell your last name.
Kipple,
By whom are you employed?
with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office,
How long have you been a police officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
19 years,
How long did you serve as a patrol officer?
for 8 years.
What are your current duties with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Currently, I'm assigned into the crime scene unit as a crime scene detective.
How long have you been a crime scene detective, or what we used to refer to as an ET, an evidence technician?
For 9 years.
And did you get special training before you became a crime scene detective?
I got training while I was a crime scene detective.
Okay. Did you receive special training in homicide investigations?
Yes, I have.
Did you receive both basic and advanced training in preserving and maintaining crime scenes?
Yes, I have.
In digital photography?
Yes.
And in the collection of evidence?
Yes.
Did you receive special training specifically with regard to bullets and ammunition, commonly referred to as ballistics?
Yes, I have.
Where were you assigned on November 23rd, 2012?
With the crime scene unit.
Were you one of the major case evidence technicians to respond to the Gate gas station located at the intersection of Bay Meadows Road and Southside Boulevard?
Yes, I was.
Is that in Jacksonville, Duval County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
Is it the practice of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for each officer to fully document the details of each case as it is handled?
Yes, it is.
Are notes made as a normal part of the course of your business?
Yes.
Are those notes then put into an official police report?
Yes, it is.
Is that report compiled by a homicide detective and maintained basically forever at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
The homicide detective writes a report, and so do I.
Okay, but are those reports all under one, what we call CCR number?
Yeah, they're all followed within the same CCR number.
All right, sir. And did you make such a report in this case?
Yes, I did.
Did you make more than one report?
No, I did not.
Would it aid you in your testimony to be able to refer to the report if you need to do so today?
Yes, it would.
What was the date and time that you were dispatched to respond to the Gate gas station on November 23rd, 2012?
Well, November 23rd, 2012, I responded at 9 p.m.
Who was on the scene when you arrived?
The scene was already secured. The homicide detectives were already on the scene. Officers had the area blocked off, and my direct supervisor was there as well.
Okay. And explain what a perimeter is in terms of a crime scene.
The perimeter is, we usually have two perimeters, an inner and outer, and what a perimeter is the area that we rope off or block off, so the general public can't get in, but only the investigating officers and those who need to be within that area are allowed into it.
When you block off a crime scene, do you block off everything you know to be relevant at the time you're processing the scene?
Yes, we do.
Did you speak with homicide detectives prior to beginning your documentation of this crime scene?
Yes, I did.
And do you do that for purposes of making sure you understand what happened and what type of call to which the police were responding?
Correct.
Did you have assistance from other major case evidence technicians at the scene?
Yes, I did.
And have you taken some overall photographs of that area since that night to aid the jury in its understanding of the gate station as well as the area next door to it?
Yes, I
Which
did.
would be to the north of it. All right. I'm going to show you some of the photographs that you took starting with States 119 and ask you to explain that photograph to the jury, sir.
Okay, this photograph is from Southside Boulevard, and it's facing towards a strip mall within the complex, and then the Gate gas station is over on the right-hand side of the photograph.
From your memory of processing the crime scene, can you just circle the location where the red Dodge Durango was parked on the evening of November 23rd, 2012?
It was parked in front of the gas station, right in this area.
I'm going to take you now to States 120 and ask you to describe that photograph to the jury.
This is another photograph from Southside Boulevard, and it is showing the strip mall.
All right. And does that photograph show a restaurant called The Loop in it? Can you tell? There's trees, right?
There's, yeah, this photograph I see the Village Cafe, it says,
Okay.
but I don't see that exact restaurant, what you're,
All right. Is there a sign that sits near the bushes towards that grassy area? Can you circle that large sign for the jury? Is there an even larger sign to the north of that?
I see, are you talking this area? Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking this one.
Yes, sir.
I'm
All right. And you can tap that screen and that will allow you to give more testimony about that. Sir, is there more than one driveway coming out of that area of that portion of the strip mall?
Yes, there is.
And is the other driveway would be to the left of this photo, the north of this photo?
Yes.
All right. Let me take you then, sir, to States 137 and ask you to describe that view and that photograph.
This is a view as if you're leaving from the gate station, and it shows the parking lot within the strip mall.
All right. The large sign that you just circled, your third circle on the last photograph, can you circle that on here, please? And with a little arrow, can you show the jurors where the red Dodge Durango was parked the evening of November 23rd, 2012? I know you may not be able to see it. Just point in that direction on this photo. Where it was ultimately parked when you processed it.
Oh, when I processed it?
Yes, sir.
This photograph isn't showing the,
Right. I want you to just draw a small arrow going towards the area where it was
okay,
parked.
I understand.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And the next photograph, States 205. Can you explain the significance of that photograph?
This photograph is showing the parking lot in the strip mall, and it's showing the Gate gas station in the background.
All right. And sir, did you take that photograph to document a a location where witnesses had said the Durango had stopped before returning to the scene for your purposes when you processed it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, when there are gunshots fired in an open area, such as a parking lot, is there any way possible to avoid movement of projectiles, shell casings, clothing, etc., before police can get there and lock down the scene?
No, there is not.
And is that true when civilians attempt to help the gunshot wound victim and also when rescue has to respond to the scene?
Yes, sometimes shell casings do get kicked and disturbed.
Do you make any attempt to move items of physical evidence back to their original location, or do you photograph them as you find them?
I photograph them as I find them.
Okay. I'm going to take you through a series of photographs and ask you to describe each one. All of these are entered into evidence, so I'm going to call out just the number. Starting with States 4, can you describe that to the jury?
This is a photograph of the front of the Gate gas station with the red Dodge Durango and a white pickup truck parked in a parking spot.
Approximately what time did you begin to photograph the scene?
Around 10 o'clock.
States 5 in evidence?
It's another viewpoint from the gas pumps showing the front of the Gate gas station.
Okay. States number 6 in evidence?
This is a closer up view showing the front of the Gate gas station, and here you can see placards that I placed down into the parking spots.
And just for the record, explain what a placard is and what you mean by that.
What placards are is a numbering system. The ones that I use are yellow, and what I do is I place them down in front of evidence, and they're a good visual sign for when we take a photograph that you can see what I'm trying to document from a distance.
Okay. States number 7?
It's another photograph of the front of the store, and it's focusing on where the placards were placed.
Now, sir, for example, the white truck that's depicted here, if that truck had not been part of the original scene when the shooting occurred, would you still have just left it in its place
Yes,
to document how it was when the police arrived?
correct.
All right, and so in States number 7, that's just a view then again towards the front door showing your placards, correct?
Yes.
States number 8?
This is focusing on the red Dodge Durango, and it's showing the doors are open on it.
And the close-up inset on this composite exhibit?
That's going to be a close-up of the license plate on the vehicle.
Thank you. States number 9?
It's another photograph showing the Dodge Durango.
Does this photograph show the relationship of the Durango back to the front door?
Yes, it does.
Can you circle the lighting that's depicted here that is not natural, it's electric lighting, but it's attached to the building? Can you circle that for the jury?
Yes. This area right here,
Were those lights on or did you have them turned on?
they were on when I arrived.
The lighting inside the window in the store, were those lights on or did you ask that they be turned on?
They were turned on.
Okay. Was there other lighting in that parking lot?
They do have a street lamp post within the parking lot.
Okay. Let me take you now, sir, to States Exhibit 10 and ask you to continue to describe these photos for the jury.
This photograph is focusing on the placards, and it's within that parking spot.
Now, the purpose of the numbers on the placards, you're showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here. Why do you have separate ones?
Well, each placard that I placed down is next to a piece of evidence that I collected.
Okay. Did you also take close-ups of those items of evidence?
Yes, I did.
Let me take you to States 11. Can you describe the close-ups there?
Yeah, this is showing placard number 1 and number 2, and also the white truck that's in the parking spot.
Is that to give it context?
Yes, it is.
All right. Now, for a close-up of States number 1, I'm asking you to look at number 12 and tell the jurors what that is.
This is a close-up photograph showing the shell casing in front of placard number 1.
What do you mean by shell casing?
What a casing is it is what was inside of the gun when it was fired, and when a semi-automatic is fired, what's left over from the bullet itself is the empty casing that gets ejected from the pistol.
States 13 in evidence, placard number 2, what is that?
Placard number 2 is another casing.
A separate shell casing,
Correct.
okay? States 14,
This is an overall view showing a perspective of where the placards are in relation to each other.
states 15,
This view is, my back is towards the wall, and the photograph is showing going out towards the parking lot.
states 16,
This is placard number 3, showing a shell casing.
a different shell casing.
Yes.
States 17,
It's placard number 4, showing a different shell casing.
states 18,
It's placard number 5, showing a different shell casing.
states 20.
This is a close-up of,
Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to 19. Did you cover 19?
no, this
That
is
was a
just,
close-up?
it's just a close-up of a shell casing for placard number 5.
All right, I'm going to go back to 18 just to make sure. That's the long view of number 5
Yes.
between the two yellow poles. And then states 19.
Yes, it's a close-up of the shell casing.
Thank you. States 20.
It's placard number 6, and this is showing part of a projectile.
What do you mean by part of a projectile?
A projectile is when you have your bullet, the shell casing on it has a projectile, and when it's fired, the projectile leaves from the casing. Sometimes when it strikes something, the projectile can break up and it fragments into pieces. This is showing the outside case of the projectile itself.
Was that the only projectile among all those shell casings on the ground in the area that's been depicted?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let me take you then to states 21 and ask you, sir, to describe what that is.
This is showing the driver's side view of the Durango, and on the ground I have placards number 7 and number 8.
All right. Did you also take close-ups of those items?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you states 22 in evidence. What is placard 7?
Number 7, from this viewpoint, you can see a wallet, and placard number 8 is focusing on, you can see a jacket there.
All right. And then a close-up of placard 7, states 23. What's depicted there?
This is the close-up showing the wallet, but you can also see a piece of the projectile fragment on the ground.
Can you please circle that piece of projectile on the ground? Sir, did you find any other evidence of any type of ballistics on this driver's side of the red Dodge Durango?
No, I did not.
Okay. I'm going to show you some physical evidence at this point. There. Touch that screen. All right, I'm going to start by showing you states 185. And it would help if I could read these things. States 185, sir, if you can look at this and tell me, do you recognize this item of evidence?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
These are going to be the 5 shell casings I recovered, and also the envelope that I packaged it in.
Right, and are they clearly marked as the placards 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Did you itemize those?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how did you itemize them?
On the envelope, I wrote which placards or evidence I collected, and then I also packaged each one into a separate, smaller envelope.
Sir, is it fair to say that the shell casings that you found on the ground in front of the gate station are all contained in this one exhibit, states 185?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to publish to the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
186. Is it all on here? You know what I'm going to do? No. Wait a minute. Yeah, because they don't all belong on there.
Ms. Corey, your microphone's on, which it should be. but
Yes, sir.
I'm just saying,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
That's all I need for him, 186, 187. That's all I need for him. Thank you. Is it still going around? Thank you. Detective Kipple, I'm now going to show you what's entered into evidence as States 186 and ask you, sir, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is going to be part of the projectile from evidence placard number 6.
Was that the one projectile that was found amongst those shell casings?
Yes, it is.
And it was on the right-hand side of the Durango, is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And does it bear the same markings and your same signature, et cetera, on it?
Yeah, that's my handwriting on the envelopes that I submitted it with.
All right, Your Honor, I'd like to publish 186 to the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want those two away, and I want that thing up here. Yeah, just put those somewhere else. Put that up here, because I'm going to go back to my pictures. Right. Where was this one? It doesn't matter for right now. Where's this one? You put that over here, because I'm not going back over there. Thank you. Ms. Forbes, could you pull up States 14 for me, please? And Your Honor, may Detective Kipple step down from the stand? I'm going to ask him, well, stay on the stand because your photograph's up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Detective Kipple, just so the jurors can put these exhibits in context with that photograph, can you please explain the shell casings, which is States 185, which is right here in front of the jury. Can you all see it? Okay, right there in front of the jury, and just circle where those items are on that photograph.
The shell casings are identified as placards 1 through 5, and on this photograph, I've got placard number 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, then in States 186, which is right here on the right, can you please circle that in photograph 14 so they can see that as well?
Placard number 6 is going to be the piece of that projectile that was recovered.
All right, and then Ms. Waldrop, if you could go to photograph number 23. Insert States 187 in evidence. Is this the item that you retrieved from the other side of the vehicle next to the wallet?
Yes, this is the fragment that I recovered. That's evidence number 7. That was on the left side of the Durango.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah, get it on. 23. For just now, yeah. I've got more photos and then more evidence. Almost tripped up there. It was so unclear. Thank you. Detective Kipple, were all of these items preserved at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office until being taken to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for processing?
Yes, they were.
Did you continue to document the scene that evening?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you states 24 in evidence and ask you, is that a photograph of the wallet in both the closed and open condition?
Yes, it is.
To whom does that wallet belong?
To Jordan Davis?
Did you take photographs of the red Dodge Durango itself?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you states 25 in evidence and ask you to describe that to the jurors.
This is a photograph of the front of the Dodge Durango.
Okay. And states 26.
This photograph is showing the open driver's door, and it's showing the front compartment of the driver's area.
Did you ever try to move anything around inside that vehicle?
Not while I'm taking these photographs, no.
Okay. States 27.
This is showing the driver's compartment area, the front driver's compartment.
States 28.
This photograph is from the driver's side showing the back seat area.
And all of these close-ups are still being taken at the gate gas station, is that correct?
Yes, they are.
States 29.
This is a little bit further view showing the rear driver's side passenger door.
Okay. And just with a little arrow, can you point in the direction where the wallet and projectile and that other jacket were found?
This way.
States 30.
This is focusing on the door handle locks itself.
States 31.
This is the rear passenger door back seat area.
Now, when you arrived at the scene, was there anyone inside this vehicle?
No, there was not.
Was anyone allowed to go inside this vehicle once the police arrived and the crime scene was locked down?
No, they were not.
States Exhibit 32.
It's showing the back seat from the vantage of the passenger side.
States Exhibit 33.
It's focusing on the back seat itself.
States Exhibit 34.
This is showing the view from the front of the vehicle on the passenger side.
Did you see obvious signs of gunshots to this vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And did you document those gunshots?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let me show you States Exhibit 35.
This is showing the gunshots on the passenger side door.
Did you ever attempt to manipulate the windows in any way, or again, did you photograph it exactly as it was when you arrived?
I photographed it just as I saw it when I arrived.
Okay. States Exhibit 36.
This is focusing on the rear passenger door with bullet shots to the door.
States Exhibit 37.
It's the rear quarter panel showing the window.
And is there a gunshot in that photograph?
It's hard to see it on this photograph, but on the top left of the glass, you can see the glass is fragmented and there's a hole in it.
Can you circle that area? I realize we're using a red mark. There you go. Thank you, sir. States Exhibit 38.
This is a closer photograph showing the rear window like that and the bullet hole in it.
States Exhibit 39.
It's showing a bullet hole on the rear quarter panel.
Can you circle it, please? States Exhibit 40. You need to tap the screen. Thank you. Is this yet another bullet hole?
Yeah, this shows another bullet hole on the rear trunk hood
Okay.
of the Durango.
All right, let me ask you a few questions about the order in which you took these photographs. Did you attempt to figure out which bullets had struck the vehicle first?
No, I did not.
Did you just photograph them in a particular order?
I just took overalls with no particular order in mind.
Did you see any other evidence of bullet strikes to that vehicle?
Not to the exterior, no.
Okay. And let me show you one more photograph, sir. Are these items that you took from the gate gas station and put into evidence? This is a composite exhibit of, I believe, potato chips and wine. Did you take those from the gate gas station and put them in the property room?
Yes, I did.
Okay, states 41. Did you know the significance of those items at the time you collected them?
Just a little bit, yes.
Okay, but you had spoken with detectives before taking these into evidence?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you then, sir, accompany this vehicle back to the JSO warehouse where you all store vehicles that are involved in criminal episodes?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Was there any type of black Volkswagen, dark gray Volkswagen, or any other vehicle that you were told about that was part of this crime for you to be able to process, photograph, or take back to the warehouse with you?
No.
So the only vehicle you had towed that night was this red Dodge Durango.
Correct.
What was your understanding of the occupants of the Durango? Were they taken to the police station and questioned?
Yeah, they were not at the scene while I was there.
Were they ever allowed to go into this car once you started processing it?
No.
Tell the jurors how you have the car taken from the gate gas station to your warehouse.
What we do is we call a record list that is within our sheriff's department. We have a rotation. A wrecker responds to the scene. They load it up on a flatbed trailer, and then I follow it down to our warehouse where it is unloaded, where we can process it.
All right, sir. And then did you take more photographs of this vehicle?
Yes, I did.
All right. Let's start with states 42 in evidence and explain this photograph to the jury.
Well, these photographs now are going to be within the warehouse, and this photograph is showing the back of the Durango.
States 43.
This is showing the passenger side of the Durango.
Yes, sir, and it may be obvious. Can you explain what those pink things with wheels are?
Well, within our warehouse, the things that the wheels are sitting on are called go-jacks, and they're dollies where we can jack up the vehicle and I can push the vehicle around the warehouse using those devices.
States 44.
This is showing the passenger side with both doors open.
States 45.
This is showing the rear passenger door with it open.
All right, and is this a photo taken by Detective Whittley as a follow-up to your investigation?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell the jurors why he would have followed up on this?
He was doing a follow-up after the homicide detectives went through the vehicle and they found additional evidence inside the vehicle.
All right, sir, is it unusual for something as small as a projectile to move when a car is moved around either on a towing vehicle or on those little go-jacks, as you call them?
Yeah, sometimes evidence does shift around.
Okay, and then states 46, is that a close-up of that projectile that Whittlesey put in the property room?
Yes, it is.
Detective Whittlesey, I apologize. States 47,
This is after he recovered the projectile, he photographed it and documented what it was.
okay. And then did you continue, now we're going to go back to the night you were processing. Did you do that the same night that you had been at the gate gas station?
I processed the same way, yes.
Yes, sir. All right. Then continuing with your photograph, states 48.
This is showing the driver's door and it's open and it's focusing on the door pockets.
Did you ever find any weapons in that driver's door?
No, I did not.
States 49.
This is focusing on the front compartment of the truck and it's basically the center console area.
Did you find any weapons in any part of this area of the vehicle?
No, I did not.
Any sticks,
No,
poles,
no,
cylindrical objects,
no,
knives,
no,
any other type of weapon?
no, I did not.
If you had seen any type of weapon, what would you have done with it?
It would have been photographed and I would have collected it.
And then tell the jurors why you don't collect all the things that are seen, like the cups and that sort of thing.
At the point in time, they're of no evidentiary value.
Do they remain in the vehicle in case something does become of evidentiary value?
Yeah, after we're done processing, everything that's in the vehicle remains in the vehicle.
All right, states 50.
This is focusing on the passenger door and it's showing the door pockets.
And in those door pockets, did you find any weapons of any type?
No, I did not.
Let me go ahead and clarify for the following questions. When I say weapons, I mean obvious weapons or anything that can be used as a weapon. Is that Fair?
That's how I understand a weapon to be.
Yes, sir. States 51.
This is the trunk of the car, the rear hood has been lifted, and this is showing the items that are in the back of the truck.
Same question. Did you find any type of weapon at all there?
No, I did not.
States 52.
Here I've put what we call sticker scales, evidence scales, to document and number the bullet strikes to the vehicle.
And what's the purpose of having the measure on there?
What the measure does, and it's on two different scales, it's on the metric system and American system, and it's just documenting the size of the damage or the hole that's on the vehicle.
And is that sometimes relevant to determining if it was fired from a particular weapon?
Yes, it is.
At that point, when you were documenting this, was the shooter's weapon anywhere at the scene, or had it been given to JSO at that time?
No, it had not.
So you were preserving this for possible later match?
Correct.
Okay, States 53.
This is a closer-up view of bullet strike number 1.
Okay, now, did you number these strikes in the same order as the photographs you had taken at the scene?
Well, I've numbered these, and then I took photographs in sequential order after I numbered them.
And where did you start?
I started at the rear of the vehicle, and then I worked my way forward.
Thank you, sir. States 54, and there's a closer up of that, so it's a composite exhibit. Explain that to the jury.
What this photograph is showing is it's bullet strike number 1, and this is when I opened up the hood, and this is inside of the vehicle, but you can tell I took a photograph and it's going upwards, and that's the roof tiles you see in the background.
All right, now you said hood. Is that what you call the thing at the back of the car?
It's the latch, it's the tailgate.
Tailgate, okay. States 55.
This is showing that the tailgate's open, and it's showing the rubber seal, and I noticed that the bullet strike went through and struck the rubber seal part.
Do we sometimes refer to that as a reentry?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you remove that weather strip to further document this?
Yeah, I pulled the weather strip, and there should be more photographs
Well, I'm
showing.
trying to make it go, there we go. Does that depict the weather strip removed?
Correct. I removed the weather strip, and this is showing the path of the bullet still continuing through the frame of the vehicle.
Because of where this bullet entered the vehicle, exited and re-entered the vehicle, would you have been able to recover this projectile?
No.
States 57 in evidence?
This is showing bullet strike number 2. That's on right near the tail ends.
Okay. And again, to remind the jury, are these numbered by you in the order in which you believe they were fired at the vehicle?
No.
Okay. States 58?
It's a closer-up photograph of bullet strike number 2.
Were you able to recover that projectile?
No.
States 59?
This is showing the window that I photographed at the warehouse, and I put sticker scale number 3 on there.
Were you able to follow that projectile to some extent?
Yes, I was.
How were you able to do that?
On this particular one, the projectile struck the window, and it continued on through the vehicle, and I could make a determination of where it struck in the front part of the vehicle.
All right, then let me show you States 60 in evidence. Is that a close-up of bullet strike number 3?
Yes, it is.
State 61, what is that orange thing in the photo?
That's one of my trajectory rods that I used to determine the trajectories.
Okay, and is that, tell the jurors from what direction that photograph is taken.
How I took this photograph is it's in the back seat. I stuck my camera up next to the trajectory rod, and it's shooting backwards towards where the projectile entered into the window.
Can you circle the entry of that particular projectile?
It's going to be in the back window area.
Okay. And which seat is depicted in this particular photograph?
It's the rear passenger seat.
states 62 in evidence, and thank you for tapping that screen. If you do that after every photograph, I appreciate it. State 62.
This is showing the continuation of the trajectory rod where it hit the driver's side visor.
All right. And states 63.
This is showing the damage to the visor, and I placed a sticker scale next to it.
And again, whose visor is that as far as which occupant of the vehicle?
The driver's.
States, now did you recover a projectile from within that visor?
Not from the visor, no.
Were you able to track that projectile that had gone through the visor?
Yes.
State 64, can you circle the projectile in that picture?
What this is showing is the dashboard of the vehicle, and there's a piece of the projectile right there.
Okay. States 65 in evidence.
And this is a closer photograph of it, and on here you can see two pieces of a projectile. One's right here, and the other's right here.
State 66.
On this one here, due to the tint on the window, I can see one of the pieces of the projectile right there.
Is it fair to say from this photograph that that bullet traversed the entire diagonal of that vehicle from back to front and landed in that front corner as depicted here?
Yes, it did.
Okay. States 67.
It's a closer up view from outside of the vehicle showing the piece of the projectile on the dashboard.
And did you collect those pieces of the projectile?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Let me show you state 68 in evidence. And I need 188. Can you explain that to the jury?
What I did is I recovered those two pieces from the dashboard. I placed it on an envelope, and then I documented and I photographed what they look like.
All right, sir, let me show you. Give me 1 second. Yes, sir, I'm going to show you states 188 in evidence, and if you'll leave that photograph up. Let me ask you, are these the two pieces of the projectile that you recovered from what you numbered bullet strike number 3 and recovered in that front portion of the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you pour me some water, just a little bit? Oh, thanks, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you. Did you go on to document the other gunshot entries to that vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you then states 69.
This is showing the rear passenger door with 3 bullet strikes to it.
Can you circle the one you designated as number 4? Is there a way to may I have 1 minute? Can I ask Mr. Smith a question? Is there a way to change that pen color very quickly? Can you just change it to blue, please? Very, very quickly. Blue. All right, tap that screen and clear that, and then I'm going to ask you to circle 4 or write a 4, either one. Much better. 5 and 6. Okay. And at the time, sir, that you were documenting this particular photograph, were you even aware of which passenger was even struck by the bullets?
No, I was not.
Okay, or in which seat that passenger, or if it had been the driver, were you aware of any of that?
From the damage to the vehicle and where the bullet strikes entered, I had an indication of where, if there was an occupant in it, where he probably would have been shot, yes.
And tell the jurors how you figured that out from observing the vehicle.
Well, by looking at the damage to the vehicle and then the bullet strikes to it, these 3 bullet strikes that I just circled are the only ones that penetrated through the doors.
Okay. And other than number 3, which you said traversed at the diagonal, did you find any evidence that the others had actually penetrated the vehicle?
No, I did not.
Okay. States 70 in evidence, sir? Are those close-ups of 4, 5, and 6?
Yes, they are.
And then did you take a close-up of each one of those
Yes, I did.
gunshots? 71,
That's bullet strike number 4.
72,
That's number 5.
and 73.
Number 6.
Based on your experience in ballistics and the way that bullets strike metal, particularly a vehicle, is it surprising to you that they are all different shapes?
No, it is not.
Can you explain that to the jury? Why would these bullet strikes, if they were fired from the same gun with the same caliber ammunition, look different as they do?
Well, sometimes when a projectile hits something, and projectile is the part that leaves the gun itself and it strikes something, sometimes when it hits it, it stays in one piece. Sometimes when it hits it, it'll hit metal and it will mushroom and make it bigger. And then it also determines sometimes if it's at an angle or the point of entry, the trajectory of which it hits. All of those factors can make a different size hole when it strikes an item.
All right, sir. States 74 in evidence. If you could tell the jurors what that depicts?
This is focusing on the bullet strikes on the passenger door itself.
Okay, and which one's number 7?
Number 7 is just right above the door handle.
Number 8?
It's in the center of the door,
And number 9?
and it's at the front of the door.
Does this conclude the number of entrances of bullets into this vehicle for your purposes?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't find any evidence of any other gunshots of entry into the vehicle?
No, I did not.
Did these 3 bullets penetrate through the other side of the door?
No, they did not.
Okay. Let me take you then, and is that a close-up of 7? This is state 75, state 76,
Number 8,
and states 77.
number 9.
Again, sir, can you explain why those entries would appear differently?
Sometimes when the projectile hits it, it expands in mushrooms, which is going to leave a bigger hole within the metal.
Okay. And is that the close-up of number 9, state 78?
Yes, it is.
Did you look for the corresponding, either the finding of the projectiles or the hole on the other side on these 2 doors?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let's start with State's Exhibit 79 then, sir, and can you explain what this is to the jury?
This is the inside of the passenger door, and what I did is I removed the plastic covering for the door itself.
Now, without going back to the other pictures you've described, you photographed this same door with the interior intact, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And then tell the jurors why you removed it.
Well, I didn't see any evidence showing that the projectile went through the door and damaged the plastic, so I wanted to see where the projectile struck or what it hit.
Yes, sir. So with states 80, what does that show?
What this is showing is its sticker number, and I identified it as 7A.
Tell the
which-
jurors why you did that.
On the other side, the corresponding bullet hole is going to be number 7, and this is going to be, as it continued through the door, it struck right here, and it put a dent within the door, removing some of the paint.
States 81.
And I did this, this is a photograph of the inside of the door, and I placed sticker scales number 8A and also 9A on the metal of the door.
States 82.
This is a close-up photograph showing 8A and the dent that the projectile caused on the interior part of the door.
Can you circle the dent? States 83.
And what I did here for 9A is I documented with the sticker scale, and I drew a little arrow because the paint didn't come off as much on this one here, but you can definitely see the dent on the interior part of the metal.
States 84.
This is showing the interior part of the door and how they got a hole within the door itself where I could reach through the hollow part of the door.
All right, and did you recover anything from inside that door pocket?
Yes, I did.
States 85.
I'm trying to take a photograph of the inside of the door pocket, and this is showing broken glass from the window that fell within the hollow part of the door.
And then states 86, sir.
I was able to reach up into that hollow part area, and I pulled out 3 pieces of fragments from projectiles.
Let me show you now what's been entered into evidence as states 189 and ask you, are these the 3 fragments depicted in that photograph?
Yes, they are.
And did you put those into the property room for further processing if needed?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
This must be, see if that's Whittley. Where? They don't. They don't, come on here. I give up. Stay there. Okay. Thank you. Detective Kipple, explain the use of dowels when dealing with ballistics type of evidence.
What a dowel is, we use a dowel to determine the trajectory or the path that the bullet took when it struck an item.
Okay. And did you attempt to follow the trajectories of the bullets that were fired into this red Dodge Durango?
Yes, I did.
Did you do that same evening, or I guess you were probably into the early morning hours by this time?
It was within that same day, yes.
Thank you. Let me show you now, sir, states 87 in evidence, and can you explain that photograph to the jury?
This photograph is showing the passenger side of the Durango, and I've already placed trajectory rods through all the corresponding bullet strikes.
Okay. how do you actually insert the rod, the dowel or rod?
Well, on these particular bullet strikes, what we need is to put the rod into the hole. There's got to be a continuous hole that goes through the item. I was able to find points on all of these bullet strikes to insert the rods.
Right. In the photographs you previously described that had dimples, specifically the front door of the red Dodge Durango, were you able to rest the dowels in those dimples?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And then on the back passenger door, did you have to rest the dowels in dimples?
No, I did not.
Tell them why. Tell the jury why, please.
For the back passenger door, there was a bullet strike that continued through the exterior and made it into the interior of the vehicle.
All right. Let me show you States 88 in evidence. Explain that view to the jury.
What these photographs are detecting is I'm trying to give an overview showing from an on-site purpose of the direction of one of the rods.
States 89 in evidence.
This is a side view of the rear quarter panel from the passenger side, showing the 3 dowel rods and the bullet strikes.
States 90 in evidence.
This photograph is focusing on bullet strike number 3 with the dowel going through the broken glass.
Sir, if witnesses testified that the vehicle was being shot at and backed out and turned a different direction, would that make it consistent with why these bullet strikes of entry are in different locations on this vehicle?
Yes, it would.
States 91 in evidence.
This photograph is showing more of an aerial. I'm standing above the Durango, showing the dowel rods from a higher angle.
States 92 in evidence.
This is the front passenger door showing the dowel rods from a low view, taking a picture going upwards.
States 93 in evidence.
This is a photograph of an aerial view of me taking a photograph going downwards towards the front passenger door and rear passenger door.
All right. And let's just go through them. Can you circle number 9? We're going to go backwards. Can you circle number 9?
Right there.
Number 8? Number 7? And have you previously testified that those were the bullets that dimpled the inside of the vehicle and from which you recovered the 3 projectiles you just showed the jury?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, circle number 6, number 5,
Right there.
and number 4. And was one projectile recovered from within the vehicle that would have corresponded with those 3 dowels?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually it was, by Detective Whittley, correct?
Correct.
Any other projectiles recovered other than the 3 from the front door and the one right there by you or Detective Whittley? Until we get around to the other ones, just so far for these 2 doors.
No.
Okay? And States 94 in evidence. Can you demonstrate what that is?
What I did here is I opened the passenger door and took a photograph showing the trajectories going through the door as if the door was open.
Okay? And where is the edge of the seat in relation to where the dowels go through? Can you just draw the whole edge of the seat? All right. And sir, on these 3 dowels, had you continued them, if you could have, into the car, would they have gone into someone sitting on that seat right there?
It's consistent if somebody was sitting in that particular seat right there that he would have been struck by the projectiles.
With the door in that position?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you may have said shut. No, if somebody, this is showing that the door was open. If somebody was sitting in the seat, they wouldn't have been shot by that trajectory, no.
Right. If those dowels had continued, if you had kept them going, would they have lined up with the metal rim going towards the back of the car?
Yes, they would have.
Okay. States 95. tell the jurors the purpose of that picture.
This photograph is showing the rear passenger door now shut, and it's showing the trajectory routes continuing through the interior part of the passenger door onto the passenger seat area.
Sir, what is this debris on the seat?
It's going to be pieces of broken glass and also pieces of plastic from the door itself.
States 96 in evidence. Explain the view of that photograph.
You're looking at the trajectory routes going through the rear passenger door, and this is a downward shot showing the seat and then the broken pieces of plastic and glass.
All right. And then, sir, would it be within the purview of your expertise or the medical examiner to testify as to whether or not bullets went through the body of the person sitting in that seat?
That's left up to the medical examiner.
All right. States 97 in evidence. Explain the angle of that photograph.
This is another viewpoint from the back seat area showing the angle of the trajectory routes going through the door.
All right. Sir, approximately how much time did you spend photographing and processing this entire scene while you were out at the Gate gas station?
Including the gas station and the warehouse,
Well, let's separate it out. Let's start with just the Gate gas station.
approximately 3 hours.
Okay. At that point, did anyone ever tell you that a witness had seen any of the young men in the Durango with a weapon?
Nobody told me that, no.
If anyone had told you that anyone had even thought they had seen a weapon, what would you have done?
I would have expanded the search of the area.
Okay? And did anyone ever ask you to search anywhere else to look for any sort of a weapon?
No, they did not.
Did you ever find anything that resembled a deadly weapon, a gun, a knife, any other type of deadly weapon in that red Dodge Durango?
No, I did not.
Did you ever find anything that could be used as a weapon in that red Dodge Durango?
Not a deadly weapon, no.
Do you recall there being a tripod up under the seat?
Specifically, no, I don't remember it being there.
So if you had seen anything like a tripod, would you have thought it had any evidentiary value?
No, if the items I saw in the vehicle,
Your Honor, speculation.
Still a rule.
For your purposes, as an evidence technician collecting evidence from this vehicle where shots had been fired into it, would you have done anything with a tripod?
yeah, I saw a lot of items in the vehicle, and I didn't pay any attention to a tripod because I didn't think that would be considered a deadly weapon.
And would that tripod still be in the vehicle, which is still at your warehouse?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Explain to the jury briefly what a DNA swab is.
What a DNA swab is we use a sterile cotton swab, and there's different ways that we can swab items to collect DNA. That's one of the items that we use to collect it.
Almost done.
Ms. Corey, just flip the button and turn the box part of it off.
Yes, sir.
All you gotta do is
Are you
flip the
talking about
button.
this microphone, Judge?
Pardon me?
The microphone?
Yeah, because when you're whispering, not everybody, but it's going out.
Yes, sir.
And if you just hit the little button,
Yes,
I know
sir.
some think I'm not very tech savvy, but I know that much.
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to help.
I know.
And
I keep
it's-
forgetting it's there, Judge.
I
so
understand
apo-
it's something we don't normally do is wear these lapel mics, and so I've got to just try and remind everybody all you got to do is push that little button.
Yes, sir, and I do appreciate the reminder. I'm almost done with Detective Kipple.
Okay.
Did you swab shell casings that were found at the scene?
Yes, I did.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked into evidence as states 197 and ask you, sir, is this a swab that you took from the 9mm shell casings?
Yeah, this is the envelope that I packaged, and I wrote DNA swab on it from the 9mm casings. It's signed and sealed with my signature.
And Judge will reserve the right to offer this in at a later time.
Or through another witness? May I have just a moment with co-counsel?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Ms. Abel?
Yes, sir.
That's okay. While you're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, you want to stand and stretch for a second? Or are you all good? You don't have to. Just if you wanted to, you could.
Good afternoon, Detective, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but I wanna start, is your screen working?
Yes, it
The
is.
state 62. Is there a dome light in that picture, sir?
Excuse me?
A dome light?
Yes, there
Like
is.
the exterior of the car, could you circle that? And, Detective, as you're taking these pictures, at the warehouse, this is into the next day, is that correct? That night into the next day?
It's continuing on from that night to the early morning.
Okay, and you would have taken this picture, which is States 51 as well?
Yes,
Okay, and again, that was either that night or early into the next morning?
correct.
Miss Abel, is yours on, Mike?
No, sir, because I'm using this one. Is
I
that
think
the
it
one?
died.
Okay.
At least it sounds like it has.
I'm happy to just turn this one on if that's.
Well, no, or either that or they'll get you another one.
Is that better, sir? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Detective, States 51, you took that the same night or into the early morning?
Yes, I did.
And in this picture, would you agree that obviously the hatchback is open?
Yes, it is.
And is the rear passenger door also open in that picture?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, to be clear, Detective, what year is this Dodge Durango? And you may need to refer to your report.
It appears the way that my report is written and the way we print it out, it doesn't show like the vehicle information in year upon what I have to refresh my memory.
Okay. Now, sir, I'm showing you now States 29. On the back quarter panel of this photo, do you see a light there, a flash?
Yes, I do.
Can you circle that for the jury? And can you explain to them what that is?
That's my camera and the flash that goes off when I take the photograph.
Okay. And then again on States 28, the lighting that is in this photo, is that the lighting from the flash of your camera?
Most of the interior part would be from my camera flash, yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention now to States 61. And this is where you placed some dowels in the Durango. And I want to have you review State 61, 62, and then 88. Now, speaking of dowels, let me go back for a minute. Your training as far as placing dowels. Now, isn't it correct, sir, that you took one 40-hour class called crime scene reconstruction?
Yes, I did.
And in that 40-hour class, it was 5 days of classes, 8 hours a day,
Yes.
okay? And in that 40 hours and 5 days, You actually only spent 1 day training with dowels, is that correct?
Correct.
And on that 1 day, only half of that 1 day, 4 hours, was actually spent in the classroom learning about it.
That sounds correct.
And then the other 4 were, I guess, what we would call practical or target shooting.
Correct.
Okay. Now, to be clear, you're not a ballistics expert and you've never testified as such, is that correct?
No, I have not.
Okay, and you're not a ballistics expert?
I am not.
Now, when you're placing these dowels, isn't the point to make sure that you have a straight trajectory so you could find a beginning point and an end point?
Well, by doing this, the objective is to give a fair and accurate representation of which way the projectile entered into an object or item, or in this case, a vehicle.
Well, you want those dowels to be as straight as possible, right?
Yes, we do.
To get the most accurate projection of where the bullet traveled.
True.
And you would agree with me, the bullet will travel in a straight path until it hits something.
Eventually, yeah, there is an arc involved in a bullet over long distances, but
In this case.
with this close distance type of incident, that would not come into effect.
And so you would want to make sure your dowels were straight in order to get a fair and accurate depiction of how a particular bullet traveled.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree, sir, with me on bullet strike number 3, that that rod is bent and not nearly in a straight line?
Are you talking about the one that went through the back?
Yes, sir.
There's a reason for that, yes.
So that really, whether there's a reason or not, that's not an accurate depiction of how that bullet traveled, because it dips down, right? It's not showing you a straight path.
Well, actually, yeah, it's not exactly straight, but to make the connections on that particular trajectory rod, they connect. You can tell the little dip where it bows to go in, but it's indicating that there was a bullet strike in the rear window that continued all the way on into the front of the vehicle.
And I understand that, and that's common sense. But what I'm asking you is, you are not getting an accurate trajectory on these bullets that you can use as far as measurements to figure out exactly what the exact path of the bullet is. This is just an estimate.
This is a fair and accurate representation of the trajectory, yes.
So you're saying that that bullet came in and dipped down and went back up?
No, I'm not saying that
Okay.
at all.
Let me show you States 96. Now, on States 96, you talked about some of the debris, and there's some glass there. Can you circle the glass?
These look like little pieces of broken glass.
Okay, and is that the only glass that you found in that seat?
No, there's smaller fragments scattered throughout.
Okay. Wouldn't you expect if that window had shattered that there would be a lot more glass either on the exterior or the interior of the car?
Well, this is the back seat of it, and
Yes, sir.
it depends on where the window is when it got shot, if there's tint on the window, whether the glass stayed together.
Okay. But if the glass did shatter, you're saying you wouldn't expect to see a lot of glass either on the interior or the exterior?
If the glass shattered and the window is rolled down, most of the broken glass is going to be within the hollow part of the door.
Right, it's going to collect inside the door.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know Ms. Corey asked you on the night if you went and did any searching of any, the adjacent plaza or anything to that effect. You didn't do that because no one asked you to, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I was not aware that
Okay.
part was involved.
And I'm talking about trash cans, bushes, dumpsters, ditches, all those kinds of things.
Correct.
Did anyone at any later time ask you to go back and do that?
No,
Whether it was the next day or 3 days later?
I was never asked to return to look for that.
Okay, and you are, to be fair, the main crime technician in this case?
Well, on this particular case, I was the primary ET for that evening, yes.
Okay, and that's because you happened to be the first one that came on shift that night?
Yes.
Okay, so you got assigned to it, not because you have more seniority than someone else, just that you were the first one there?
It was with my time frame while working.
Okay, thank you. Now, Ms. Corey asked you several questions. I want to direct your attention to fragment number 7 that you collected by placard number 7. Can you tell, and true for any of those, can you tell whether those fragments came from the front seat or the back seat of the car? Or what bullet those fragments came from that you collected?
On some of the fragments, I can make a determination, yes.
What about fragment number 7, marked by number 7? Do you need me to go back to that picture?
Well, I'm familiar with that one. I can't make a determination
One way or another?
one way or another which projectile that came from.
Okay. Now, Ms. Corey was also asking you if you interviewed people or asked about weapons. Now, it's not your job to interview witnesses, right?
No, I do not.
Okay, in fact, the only people that you typically talk to at a crime scene are going to be the police officers and the detectives or people that are employed with JSO.
Correct.
Because you would take your lead from the main detective as far as knowing what evidence you need to process based on what they tell you.
Yeah, on major case crimes, yeah, I deal with the detectives and I won't interview witnesses.
Okay. If I may have a moment, Your Honor, just to switch photos. Detective, I want to just show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 1. All right, Detective, now, is this a diagram of the scene that you created?
Yes, it is.
And you created that, obviously, with some help from other evidence technicians, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in general, when you do a diagram of a scene, such as this one, how is it done?
On this particular scene, it was created with our laser diagramming program.
Okay, and it's called laser mapping system, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's computer generated?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, in this case, I believe a couple of your fellow evidence technicians helped you take some measurements, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And then you would input those measurements into the laser mapping system?
Yes.
Okay, and then you would take those measurements, plug it in, and from there, that's how you would create the diagram?
Yes.
Okay, so this actual diagram is to scale,
Yes.
and it is commonly what is used in JSO, not just for this case, but for all cases when a diagram has to be created.
Correct.
Now, Detective Kipple, wouldn't it be fair to say that when you get to a scene, your basic training has taught you that you would take photographs of the scene unaltered before any placards are placed?
Sometimes we do, yes.
Okay, you didn't do that in this case, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, and specifically referring to Defense Exhibit 2, is that the first photograph, appears to be the first photograph you took in your role?
Without looking at my role, but I would not think that this is going to be my first one because I usually start my photographs from long distance and then I move up to mid-range and then close range.
Well, are there any photographs that the jury can refer to of the Gate gas station that is of the scene unaltered before you place your placards?
At this time, I don't know.
Okay. You don't know, or you're not sure? You're saying,
I'm not sure if there's some within the 263 photos that I took that would show that.
have you reviewed your 163 photos recently?
No.
You haven't gone over them with the state?
I've gone over the photos that are going to be introduced.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention to Defenses 3. And if you could again briefly explain for the jury what this is.
This photograph is showing the placards that are within the parking lot, showing the shell casings and the projectile.
Okay. And once you place the placards down, they stay there throughout the photograph so that you can then look at one placard, match it up to what you've collected. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me show you Defense Exhibit 4. Now, Detective, do you see a problem here when you compare the two? And we can go back to Defense Exhibit 3. Your numbers have changed. Would you agree with me that in comparing these two photos, initially your 4 was a 5, your 6 was a 4, and your 5 was a 6?
If there is a change, what I did is later on, we found more evidence, and I put the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as being the first 5 of the casings I collected. For simplification, I write down on the envelope 1 through 5. So this is just, once again, it's showing a perspective of where the evidence is.
Well, you only have 6 placards here. Is that correct, in this photo?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 placards.
Okay. Why would where you've placed 4 then become a 5? Why would where you place 4 become a 6 and so on?
I'm not sure what you're asking right now.
Why are the numbers changing? Your photo,
Oh.
and what I'm asking you is when
Why
we're
would 4
referring.
become a 6?
Right.
Because number 6 is going to be the projectile that we recovered.
But when we're referring to your diagram that we went over earlier, right? The diagram that you did in Defense Exhibit 1, you actually have a legend there, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes,
1 through 5 being 9mm casings and 6 being a projectile.
right.
Okay, so how do we know which picture lines up to your diagram?
I'm not
Because the
su-
numbers are different, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm still, if the numbers were different, the first 5 that I'm showing you, like on this diagram that you're showing,
Yes, sir, I understand.
the first 5 are going to be shell casings that were recovered at the scene.
What I'm asking you though, sir, is that initially you have number 4, placard number 4.
Yes,
In that same area in a later photograph, the same piece of evidence, you have it marked as number 5. Would you agree with that?
what I'm explaining to you, if, you have to go back to the photo, but if it is, that's because I moved them around, so the first 5 pieces of evidence I collected, or 1 through 5, are going to be the shell casings.
Yes, sir.
The diagram is correct.
So which diagram do we use to look at your legend, I guess is the question.
You're talking about the diagram or the photographs?
The photographs in your placards, which photograph would we use to refer to your diagram?
Excuse me, objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Now, Detective, you at the scene did some processing of the red Durango, is that correct?
At the scene?
Yes.
I photographed it, yes.
Right, that's what I mean. You took photographs so as to preserve as much as you could inside the interior of that vehicle before it's being towed.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Now, Ms. Corey asked you on Defenses 7 about this projectile, and this is a photo that Detective Whittley took, is that correct?
Yes.
And this is taken at the warehouse.
Yes, it is.
And you see the fragment there, correct? And can you just circle that for the jury? Okay, now Ms. Corey asked you if sometimes when a vehicle is being transported, things get shifted around, but let me direct you to Defenses 50. Now, sir, this is, and if you could tap your screen for me, do you see that same projectile?
I see something on the bottom of the door jamb right here.
Okay, and this would be your photo taken at the scene, is that correct?
I can't tell by that photo, if that one was at the scene.
All right, sir. Defenses 5, I'm going to show you a picture of that, and I'm not sure if you can, okay, you got your screen up. Would you agree that this is going to be the right front passenger door?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and on that door, do you see the controls?
The door handles, you mean?
The controls, the lock and the window controls.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and would you agree with me, sir, that there are 2 controls there?
Yes,
Okay, one would be to lock, and one would be for that specific window.
yes,
Okay. And then going to Defenses 6, would you agree with me, sir, that this is a photo you would have taken of the driver's door?
yes,
Okay, would you agree there's obviously more controls on this door?
yes.
Okay, but sir, can you tell me the first, to the left, the first 4 buttons, would you agree, sir, that those are for the 4 different doors for the windows?
Yeah, these 4 buttons here.
And if you want to circle them, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm familiar with that, and those are going to be the buttons that control the windows to roll up and down.
Okay, now if you could tap your screen, what about the buttons to the right of that?
This button right here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Do you know what that button is?
That's a window lock?
Okay, so that would be the button you'd push to lock or unlock all 4 of the windows?
Yes.
Okay, and then ahead of that, sir, it looks like a round cylinder with some arrows on it. Can you circle that? And to your knowledge, what is that?
That's going to be what's used to control the rear view mirrors on both sides of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Detective, when you were at the scene, did you notice any red paint chips?
Specifically, no, I did not.
Between the time that you were at the scene, processing or taking photographs of the vehicle, to the time that you would have taken it to the warehouse, you followed the car, right?
Yes, I did.
And you kept it in your custody, for lack of a better term, at all times?
Yes, I did.
You don't let anyone come on the scene and change things or touch things?
No.
And the same goes for your warehouse?
True.
Okay. At any time, did you alter the child locks on either, well, specifically on the back rear passenger? And I'm talking about the child locks on the frame of the door that would control whether a person can get in or out of the door. I'm not talking about the windows, but the actual door locks.
No, I did not.
Okay, and you wouldn't have let anyone else come in and alter those either?
Well, not while I was there, no.
While you're there, that's what I'm saying. Okay. I want to direct your attention back to Defense 7. And sir, do you see the bottom of this bench seat, where Jordan Davis would have been sitting, do you see anything sticking out from the bottom there?
On the bench seat?
Yes, sir, on the right passenger rear side. Do you see the tripod sitting there under the bench seat?
I see that area right there.
Okay,
It looks like the foot of the tripod.
of the tripod, okay. And that's not something that you noticed previously?
It's something that I didn't document on my report as being significant.
Okay, well, you mean you noticed it and just decided it wasn't significant, or you didn't notice it at all?
Well, like within the vehicle, and there's disarray, and there's the basketball and all that other, I didn't think that was significant either, so that
Okay.
didn't make it onto my report.
Okay, so you made the decision then that this was not a significant piece of evidence?
At the time, it did not seem to have any significance in this
Okay.
case.
Thank you, sir. At any point, and I think Ms. Corey asked you this, let me back up for a minute. You yourself, as well as Detective Whittley or any of the other evidence technicians, you all remain involved in the case. So if there's any follow-up work that needs to be done, they can call you, they can call him, any of you to come back out if they find something new. Is that correct?
Not exactly, because we worked on fixed hours, so,
Assuming that you're on your shift at the
Oh,
time that
okay.
it happens. That's what I mean, assuming that you're working.
they can call for
Okay.
us and we can follow up on this, yes.
Did anyone ever call you back to the warehouse at any point to photograph those child locks on the back rear door?
No.
And would you agree, sir, that you take your orders or your job description, what you need to do, you coordinate that with the homicide detectives? If they need something, something new comes up, they call one of you guys, that's how you know to go do something?
Yeah, if homicide needs something, they contact one of the crime scene detectives and we'll do what's asked of us.
Okay. And I know, sir, I want to be clear, for the record, I asked you if you did any investigation on the night of the shooting and walk through of trash cans, bushes, dumpsters, and I know that you said no because you weren't asked to, but did you do it at any later time?
No, I did not.
And that's because no one asked you to,
Correct.
okay? And Detective, this may seem like common sense, but to be clear, you have no idea what was in that red Durango before you showed up to process the scene. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you couldn't tell what was there a couple hours earlier before this happened? What was physically in that Durango?
I wouldn't know what was in it or who was in it.
Okay, you only get your evidence in the state that it's in when you arrive, is that correct?
True.
Okay. And Ms. Corey asked you, regarding the crime scene and the purpose of a perimeter, the purpose of that is to protect any relevant areas and determine, you can determine at a later point what areas might be relevant for a specific case, right?
That's part of the reasons, yes.
Okay. And that's based on what you're told, what the patrol officers may relay as to what they've got of the situation at that point, correct?
Right, I mean, each scene for setting a perimeter is, as you
Is
can
different.
imagine, is always going to be different.
It's very fact-specific to what you learn when you arrive, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so if you're not told about certain, weapons that may or may not have been involved, then that's not something that you're going to independently go out and do yourself and search for.
Well, I would think that, yeah, the scene that we have secured, sometimes we do, I've been to plenty of crime scenes to where what patrol has had, I've had to extend it further.
Right.
But on this particular scene, I didn't know that it extended beyond the gate itself.
And the reason that you want to set that perimeter is to preserve and protect the scene, to make sure physical evidence isn't tainted, no one's touching it, it's not lost or destroyed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Corey?
Yes, sir.
Get on my mess. And turn this on.
Detective Kipple, when the shooter leaves the scene, there's no way for you to know anything that went on, is there?
No, there is not.
And when the shooter leaves the scene, are you able to document that shooter's vehicle, gun, or anything else as it was that evening?
If I'm unaware of it or don't know, I can't document that.
Again, did anyone give you any indication that there was any sort of a weapon on any of the occupants that had been in that red Dodge Durango?
There was no indication or nobody mentioned anything to me that there may even possibly be any other weapons involved.
All right, sir, and with regard to the 6 exhibits and placards, did you drop placards next to every piece of evidence you saw on the right-hand side of the Durango?
Yes, I did.
And then just explain to the jury why you switched the numbers.
It's to make it easier to understand when you're looking at the photographs to see that 1 through 5 is going to be the shell casings, and then 6 is going to be the projectile, and for convenience of packaging. And so when putting down placards, we're just documenting where they were. Apparently I took photographs and wasn't aware of they were switched.
But your close-ups do depict what each item is.
Yes, they do.
And do each of those items appear here in the courtroom in the physical exhibits?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
May
May
he
he
be
be?
excused?
Yes, sir, please.
Ms. Abel? Thank you, Detective. You're excused. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for today. As I said, we will go ahead and work tomorrow. Hope that meets with everyone's approval. I figure no sense in just sitting around on the weekend doing completely nothing. So we will work tomorrow. We will not on Sunday, as I mentioned. I just soon get a full day in, so we'll start at 9 o'clock. And again, don't talk about the case among yourselves this evening. Don't let anybody discuss the case with you. Don't let anybody approach you. We'll watch over your notes, and hopefully you'll have a nice, safe trip back to the hotel and a lovely meal, and then a nice breakfast, and we'll see you in the morning, and we'll get another full day in tomorrow. Thank you again for your time and attention. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a nice evening.